Are you ready, boys and girls? As one of the best clearing builds in all of Path of Exile is about to get even better. We are capable of blasting multiple screens worth of monsters using a unique solution. All that while being just as capable against bosses as any other bossing build. There are no compromises today. If you like the sound of that, then sit back and relax as this build guide is just about to start. For those of you who followed the older version of this build, this one fixes the mana issues that resulted from the removal of the 15% reservation mastery in 3.19. We also managed to increase our total damage by 30% by improving our passive tree. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about our Ascendancy first. Generally, we want to be an occultist when playing area-based spells, because the Ascendancy provides us with increased area of effect and damage for each charge we have. Sadly, that's about it, as the remainder of the Ascendancy only helps cold and energy shield builds. Hence, we decided to go with Elementalist instead and allocate the important Occultist node via Forbidden Jewels, which we are going to talk about later. First, we begin with Mastermind of Discord. This node adds an additional minus 25% resistance penalty to any exposure we inflict, and we got a reliable way to inflict exposure in this build. As a result, we got the benefit from the 1% mana regen that this node provides all the time. Next, we take Heart of Destruction. This node passively increases our area of effect by 60%, which will be swapped for 30% more elemental damage for 4 seconds once we hit a unique enemy. You will be able to fully benefit from both bonuses whenever you need them the most. From here we path into some golem nodes like Liege of the Primordial. This node allows us to summon one additional golem, doubles the bonuses of all our golems, and automatically resummons them after 4 seconds. Aside from that, we don't really want to fully commit into golems and instead decided to go with Bastion of Elements as our last Ascendancy of choice. The ability to mitigate reflected elemental damage allows you to mindlessly put maps into your map device without having to worry about its consequences. The Elemental Shield is also useful for preventing bosses and strong boxes from one-shotting you. And with that being said, we are done with our Ascendancy. Now let's take a look at our passive tree. Our passive tree focuses on area of effect, spell damage, crit nodes, lightning nodes, life, and every single power charge that we can take near our pathing on the tree. Next we got one large cluster jewel setup going. This one adds the following notables: Duriani's Lesson and Thunderstruck. From here we branch off into two identical medium cluster jewels. These add some powerful AoE notables like Vast Power and Towering Threat. Finally, for mastery choices, just make sure to get the 40% of physical damage converted to lightning, as that's the damage type we chose to convert our damage to in this build. Also make sure to allocate the Herald reservation nodes, as we are running 3 different Heralds in this build. But with that being said, we are done with our passive tree. Now let's talk about items, starting with the one responsible for all those shiny explosions. We got Impulsa, ideally with +2 level of socketed duration or AoE gems. In the context of this build, this item will give us better explode than the legacy 5% explode that we used to get on Crusader chests. It requires your target to be shocked, however. Also, you need to have a way to proliferate shocks for it to chain properly. Luckily, our gloves handles that for us. Generally speaking, you can get up to 17 shock radius with Eldritch currencies on gloves implicits. However, you don't really need to aim for the highest possible roll. In my opinion, having it at least 14 should do the trick. For our other implicit, we got lightning exposure on hit. This is pretty much guaranteed and will always proc the bonus penalty from our Ascendancy. Now I roll these gloves on a regular base with unique temple mod that grants us 60% critical strike chance against shocked enemies. It's not mandatory but really nice to have, as it's not that expensive to get it on a pair of gloves that has a good life roll as well. As for the rest of the mods, we got as many resistances as possible, and we multi-modded into more area of effect and damage. Our next item is a rare helm with either Petrified Blood or Wrath mana reservation enchant. On this helm you want +1 to maximum power charges, life, resistances, and crit multi if possible. The best way to craft something like this is to chaos spam a double influence base, hoping to hit +1 power charges in conjunction with a good life roll. From there you lock the prefixes and reforge crit for a guaranteed chance to get critical strike multiplier. Next we have a rare amulet with as much area of effect and movement speed as possible. On it we have crit multi, dexterity, and +1 to minimum frenzy charges if you have space. Make sure to anoint Infused on your amulet, as this notable will give you the last power charge that we couldn't afford to manually allocate on our passive tree. Alternatively, you can just use Ashes of the Stars if you suck at crafting amulets like me. Anyway, our next item is Void Battery, 2 of it to be specific. I have used this one so many times on this channel that I know for a fact that GGG will nerf it at some point in the future. Funny enough, I tried to craft a good staff with +2 power charges just to spice things up for once. Sadly, crafting is in a very bad spot right now, as I ended up wasting 100 divines without getting anything remotely close to Void Battery's performance. I am not mad, I'm just disappointed to be honest. Our next item is a Precursor Emblem with +1 to maximum power charges. Ideally want to get this mod with 1% increased movement speed per power charge you have. This combination of mods can be expensive, and rightfully so. It is best in slot option however for any spellcaster build that likes to go fast. And we are using 2 of it. If you are having issues capping your elemental resistances, then you might want to replace this one with any rare ring that has those and life as well. Honestly, it all depends on your budget and how much elemental resistances you are able to get from the rest of your items. Anyway, our next item is Headhunter. This one is best in slot option for any fast mapper for obvious reasons. It will allow you to one-shot bosses that usually spawns at the end of a map like Guardians and Conquerors. Luckily, it went down in price in the past few leagues due to Mageblood being the new best chase item for belt slots. Last but not least, we got a pair of boots with elevated tailwind, elevated onslaught, elusive, and a high movement speed roll. From here, having life and resistances depends on how much you are willing to spend on this slot. Ideally, you want to craft your boots yourself, and that's much cheaper than buying them off the market. I'll be leaving a link that shows you how to craft similar boots to mine in the description of this video. But with that, we are done with our items. Now let's talk about gems that goes inside of them. For our main 6 link we have Val Blade Vortex, Anomalous Fist to Lightning support, Awakened Lightning Penetration, Power Charge on Crit, Divergent Inspiration, and Awakened Spell Echo. It's very important that your Fist to Lightning support gem have Anomalous quality to achieve 100% conversion on this build. Our next gem setup is a 4 link that contains the following reservation gems: Wrath, Herald of Ash, Herald of Thunder, and level 4 Enlighten. Next we got another 4 link reservation setup. This one contains Petrified Blood, Herald of Purity, level 1 Vitality, and another level 4 Enlighten gem. Make sure to hot swap your Herald of Purity with level 20 Arrogant support and then swap back to instantly set your current life to 50%. You will have to do this at the start of every map, and I'm going to explain why in the jewels section. Next we got a support 4 link, starting with Ice Golem, Flame Golem, Enhanced Support, and level 1 Precision. Last but not least, we got a 3 link mobility setup. In it we have Frost Blink, level 5 Arcane Surge, and Increased Duration. And yeah, that was it for our gems. Now let's talk about jewels. For our Watcher's Eye, we have both increased critical strike chance while affected by Wrath, and increased critical strike multiplier while affected by Precision. Next we got one Militant Faith Timeless Jewel that mentions High Templar Dominus specifically. Place it in this specific socket to maximize its effect. This one will convert all nearby keystones into Inner Conviction. Inner Conviction grants you 3% more spell damage per power charge you have. Its downside is not being able to generate frenzy charges, which is irrelevant to us. Next we got Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh Jewels. Both must mention Forbidden Power Occultist Ascendancy node. These are not required for the build, but it's highly recommended that you get them once you can. Finally, we have Dissolution of the Flesh as our last unique jewel of this build. Aside from increasing our maximum life by 30%, this jewel interacts in a unique way with Petrified Blood. You see, when you take damage while at 50% life, the upper half of your life will be reserved equal to 60% of the damage you took, and 40% of it will be dealt as damage over time to the bottom half. This effectively doubles our total life pool. All that at the price of having to run a 35% reservation scale and giving up one of our jewel slots. Now if you have copied my passive tree down to its smallest details, you will realize that we have no sockets left for normal rare jewels. While that saves us some currency, we will be forced to get more elemental resistances on our items as a result, so keep that in mind. Finally, for Bandit's quest, we are going to help Alira as usual. As for Pantheons, we got the Soul of the Brine King for the majors, and the Soul of Abereth for the minors. And that was it for our fastest Blade Vortex build in all of Path of Exile. If you guys have enjoyed this video, then make sure to leave a like and maybe even subscribe so you don't miss out on any future build guides like this one. My name is Phoenix, and I will see you all in the next video.